Hi, folks. Emily here. Today, you are going to learn how to prepare data sets for fine tuning with Amazon SageMaker. So let's get started. All right. We'll come to find out that there are three types of fine tuning data sets that are most relevant for customizing foundation models. The one you might be the most familiar with is the one on the left, and that's called instruction fine tuning. Instruction fine tuning fundamentally is about bringing a prompt or an instruction. Both of those are strings that you send to your model and you use to get responses back. In instruction fine tuning, essentially the core reason you do instruction fine tuning is because you want to teach your model how to do something new. So if you want to teach your model how to write in a specific style or do analysis in a particular style, how to do summarization, how to extract entities, how to do translation, all of these sort of core NLP tasks that you'd like to teach your model to do. Instruction fine tuning is the core way to do that. The second type of fine tuning you see here in the middle is called chat fine tuning. Chat fine tuning really is essentially a type of instruction fine tuning, but it's slightly different because what you want to do is give your model the ability to have a conversation, which isn't quite the same as just instruction fine tuning. Because in that instruction fine tuning on the left, the result is the model will be able to complete a task, and so that's sort of what an agent or an entity will be able to do. But chat fine tuning gives it a flair, and it helps it understand human conversation, such as just minor changes in preferences, in syntax. It helps the model learn how to be conversational. And so chat fine tuning is a really great way. You can take any model that's already been instruction fine tuned. So after you take your model out of the pre-training oven, if you will, once it is, completely pre-trained, first you do instruction fine tuning. Then you can do chat fine tuning. I mean, you can do both of them together. And then essentially that's a common way to make your model knowledgeable about many different tasks and also able to have a conversation. Domain adaptation, which you see on the right-hand side, is really more about giving your model knowledge about a new domain that it hasn't seen before. So for example, if you trained your model on, say, Wikipedia and common data sets that are available online, it will probably know those topics reasonably well, but it won't know about your business, it won't know about your data sets because it didn't have access to those while training. And so domain adaptation is a way you can do what's called continued pre-training, where you take the model, again, that you pre-trained, and essentially you're going to take a couple extra steps during this unsupervised pre-training. So the flow on the right-hand side does not require labeling. Essentially, you can point to new data sets that are fundamentally unstructured, flowing free like an essay, and then you can just run your model on those data sets for one or two steps or a few epochs. And then your model will know more about the knowledge that's contained within those data sets. In the demo here today, we're actually going to look at the left-hand side, instruction fine-tuning. And so a key feature that you need to know about for preparing data sets for fine-tuning is SageMaker Ground Truth. So SageMaker Ground Truth is a great way that you can prepare data sets for that supervised fine-tuning. So when you want to add a human component essentially to your data set process, then SageMaker Ground Truth is a way that you can add essentially manual human review to your processes. There are a couple different options here. The one you see in the visual is SageMaker Ground Truth Plus, which is a fully managed offering where you'll essentially use Amazon and work with Amazon to create all of the dataset labeling jobs, create the managed UI, and then actually do the annotation for you. And sort of all of it is handled for you through SageMaker Ground Truth Plus. Another option is essentially, we call it self-managed Ground Truth, and it's where you as the developer can create a labeling job, and then you're using data sets within that job And then you have a managed UI actually that you can use for labeling. And so that's the one we're going to take a look at in the demo. And so in the demo, again, we're going to prepare data sets for fine tuning with SageMaker Ground Truth. So we're going to start with a notebook on SageMaker Studio. We're going to download papers from Amazon Science, actually. So I got about 8 papers that just were published on Amazon Science recently, and we're going to extract the abstracts from those papers. I'm going to use those papers to create a manifest file. Your manifest file is a JSON lines object that is going to have the text, actually. So we're going to put the abstract for the text directly in that manifest file. We're going to load that manifest file in S3, and then we're going to use that to create a labeling job in SageMaker Ground Truth. And then we're going to open the labeling job portal, and you're going to see how to actually annotate this data set. And in particular, we're going to use a managed UI. And so the task HTML page is already built for us, and we're going to generate question and answer pairs based on the text. So let's check it out. All right. So first off, the notebook that I'm about to dive into is available for you publicly. So if you want to follow along with me and just run the commands yourself, you are welcome to do that. You will need to go get your own papers. I picked just a handful of some of the recent ones, and then I already formatted them from PDF into text. Actually, I really just did a copy. I just copied the text using my clipboard and then pasted them into a text file. This was pretty easy to do for just the small number of papers that I wanted to do. So once you've done that, then you can follow along with me. So let's get started. All right, so as always, we're going to start in Jupyter Lab, and then I'm going to open up my Jupyter Lab, which is right here. And so as promised, here is our notebook. So let's take a look at this. So again, this is the notebook that I'm running. This is that manifest file we're about to create. And then here is this local data set. And the local data set, again, really just has a handful of text files. Very simple. The text files are just a incredibly raw copy. Again, I just copied the text from the PDFs here and then just pasted it into this text file. And then we're going to use that to do some processing. So let's see how this works. All right. So first things first, of course, is just make that directory locally and then paste in the path to your S3 buckets and then do a sync. So copy that locally and then just make sure that you have it. Once this is done, we're going to actually pull out the abstract. So the abstract in a paper is just the first paragraph, really, that summarizes many of the key highlights that were identified in that work. And so it is a simple and more accessible way of working with that paper. And so we're going to focus on the abstracts. And so essentially the local ETL function here, which we're just going to do on this humble M5 machine that I'm running my notebook on. We're just going to walk through that local dataset path, pick up everything that ends in .txt, open it up, and then I know this is crude, but it works. I'm just keying off of the word introduction in that dataset again, because it's very unstructured. And so just using the word introduction was a quick and dirty way of grabbing essentially everything in front of that, which was the abstract. And so that was effective for most of the papers. I will say for some of the papers, it just didn't work. And to save time, I just removed them. So that was an easy way of handling that. So essentially we're grabbing that. And then, okay, great. So data, right, essentially is me just reading in all of the raw file, the raw text file. And then again, I'm splitting that on the word introduction. And then I'm grabbing the first element. So when you call dot split, that creates a list. So you start with a long string, and then split creates a list within that string off of that key. And so I'm grabbing just the first element in that list, which is the abstract. And then I'm replacing all of the new lines with an empty string because my quick and dirty copy gave me tons of new lines, which I didn't want. And so that's what that is for. All right, great. So we return essentially this dictionary. So this is a full dictionary that gives me the abstract itself. And then I did some essentially just checking on errors here. So I added in like the length of the abstract and then the name as well. And so that came out here. And so yeah, I put that in as the key. Yeah, so in this little dictionary, we have the name of the paper as the key, and then the abstract and the length of that are two items in the dictionary. So nested dictionary here. And then this little check function just prints out all of the file names and then the length of that abstract. And that was just to help me make sure that I was getting the right length, because otherwise some of them were just wrong, and so they were huge. And so again, after doing some munging, those are the ones that I just skipped. All right, great. So we have an abstract here, and this is a snippet from this paper, which is leveraging confidence models for identifying challenging data subgroups in speech models from these authors. Thank you. All right. Then we're going to format this into a manifest file. So once you have the raw data, which again is the abstract, we need to convert that into a manifest file in order to load it into SageMaker Ground Truth. So let's learn how to do that. So I'm going to use a library called JSON lines, which is just an easy way of writing what we want, which is a big file with many JSON objects. And then each JSON object should be on a new line. So JSON lines is a handy package for that. So we're going to import JSON lines. And then I'm opening this new file that I'm writing, abstracts.manifest. And then I'm going to walk through that dictionary, but I'm grabbing the values. And so the values in this abstracts dictionary is essentially right up here. Remember, so that's this nested dictionary, which is the key, abstract, and then the length. And so I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to write this out. And so that just writes it as a new line to this file. As it turns out, SageMaker Ground Truth really wants to see the word source as the key. So I just added the word source here, and then I'm just putting the whole abstract right there. And so that works. And let's see what this manifest file looks like. And then of course, and then I copy it out to S3. So send it back to my S3 path. So let's take a look at this manifest file, which is right here. And so lo and behold, you'll see on the left, we have these lines. And so that means we actually have new lines in this manifest file. And so again, we do need every JSON object on a new line. And then you need to not have, actually this has a trailing line, but it's, for some reason that doesn't hurt the formatting here. It's still valid JSON. All right, great. And then in each of these, again, we do have the abstract for this paper. So we got an ICL 2024 paper in there. All sorts of goodness. Question-aware vision transformers. Great. Okay, so that's our abstract. Now let's go look at this job. So I'm going to go into create a labeling job. So again, I'm in the AWS console, I'm in Amazon SageMaker, and then under Ground Truth, I clicked on labeling jobs. So within labeling jobs, we're going to create a labeling job. And on the left, I'm just going to close this out. And then let's say abstract Q&A YouTube. Okay. And so this label attribute, that is going to be a new key in your manifest file where the value of that key are the labels, actually. So the result that comes out of this labeling job, those are going to go back into your manifest file under this new key. So we can leave that there. You have a couple different options for setting up your data sets here. One of them is an automated flow where ground truth will try to automatically generate your manifest file for you. I find the manual data setup gives you a little bit more control. So that was the one I went with. You can browse your S3 buckets here, which is nice. So I used my distributed training bucket, and then I have my Amazon Science folder, and then I've got my training data, and you can see I have lots of objects in here, other manifest files. And this is the one that I want to point to. So abstracts.manifest, that's the one we use. So I'm going to choose that. And so that's where my input data set is coming from. I need to drop in another S3 path for where my data set will go when it's done. So we'll do the same flow here. Okay, great. We'll just choose this one. Okay, choose. Great. So my input dataset location in S3 and my output dataset location in S3. Next, I need to set an IAM role. I'll use one of my most recent IAM roles. Then I'm going to pick the task type. So SageMaker Ground Truth gives you a variety of tasks that you can do data labeling for. I'm going to cruise down to generative AI. And then in generative AI, we have two pre-built tasks. This one on the left is text ranking, and this is for aligning your language models. So when you have one prompt and then many different responses from that prompt, you can essentially use SageMaker Ground Truth to have humans rank those responses for you. So define their preferences from highest to least, and then use that to perform instruction, fine-tuning, and then alignment. And so that is the usually RLHF or DPO process that optimizes this. That's not what we're going to do today. Today we're just doing question and answering. And so the question and answering is going to let you send in a body of text, which we have. That's the abstract. And then the labelers are just going to add question and answer pairs using this pane on the right-hand side. So I'm going to say next. And then you have a few different options. Mechanical Turk lets you do sort of an on-demand public labeling job. So that's the one to use if you want it very, very quickly. And it is very fast. So definitely you can use the Mechanical Turk worker team to just go annotate lots of data very quickly. It's nice. I wanted to have a little bit more control over the labeling process, so I set up a private team. And then I'm going to select a private team here. Fortunately, I've already created this team, again, using the ground truth workflow. All right, and then I'm going to add in an instruction here, which is, this is an abstract from a recent paper on Amazon Science. Please write a question and answer pair based on the text you see here. So again, that's going to my labeling team. Let's see if we can preview this. It's going to come out in dark mode here because that's how I have my web browser set up. And that is the preview. Great. I'm going to show you a white mode view of this. It's a little bit easier to see, but that is looking good. Let me close this out. And then let's select create. All right, so that is in progress. It's coming online. Here's the one that I already have done that I'm about to show you. So you can see it in the console here. So again, input dataset and output dataset location. And then it's nice because the console will actually fetch some of the objects for you. And so when it's text, you can see the text right here, actually, the object summary. And then when it's images, you'll actually see you'll see those images as well, a summary of them, which is really nice. So let's see if we can look at this in the labeling page. All right, and so here we go. So on the left, you see the instructions. There's a short video, and then content about the task, and then here's that note that I wrote. I'm going to close this. We're going to zoom in. And let's see here. And that is exactly the same one we saw, which is great. So I already added a question answer pair, which is what is the name of this paper? Which is that. Let's see if we can add another question. Let's see if we can add a question about who are the authors of this paper. And that is going to be here. Do a copy. Refer to it here. And then paste. All right. So I'm going to close that and let's see if we can submit this. Submit. And then we're on to the next paper. So this one is leveraging confidence models for identifying challenging data subgroups in speech models. Fun. Okay, so that is using the data annotation labeling tool. Let me show you how I got there. So to prep for this, again, I created the labeling job, but then I also have this labeling data set. So the labeling data set, which you saw, that's the manifest file. And then I have the labeling workforce. And so the workforce I created many years ago and was able to use for this. And that lets me add teams to that workforce and then workers. So I added myself to this workforce. And then I had to actually authenticate via my email and confirm that this was me. And then after that, on this page in the console, you can just see the labeling portal sign in. So it gives you a link, and then you can just add in your name and password, which I've already done. And then here is the page where you see a number of jobs to be done, and they are in progress. And so with that, let's take a look at some resources. All right, so here's some resources for you to get started with preparing data sets or fine-tuning using SageMaker Ground Truth. First link, of course, is your documentation about SageMaker Ground Truth. That's a great way to learn about things like the manifest file, how to create the labeling workforce, the labeling job, things like this. You have a blog post that shows you different ways you can use human feedback to improve the quality of your large language models, again, using SageMaker Ground Truth and Ground Truth Plus. And then the last link is to that example notebook. So if you want to follow along that notebook with me and prepare a data set for SageMaker Ground Truth, that's a great option. So with that, thank you. That's a wrap. I'll see you next time.